Hey guys, welcome back to another video on my channel. Today we're back in another snapshot, and this is 1.21.2 pre-release 1. So we're now in pre-releases for the Minecraft 1.21.2 update, and this should be the bundles update, meaning that it will probably release by the end of October, although we would have to wait and see as there currently isn't a release date. Now let's cover what is new within this. First of all, let's cover the features that are not for 1.21.2, because the Creaking has had some updates. Now once again, you need to have the winter experimental toggle enabled to mess with these features. So the first thing we are going to show is comparators feeding out of a Creaking heart will now give a signal depending on how far away the Creaking is. And this is the connected Creaking. So for example, where is the Creaking? That is the Creaking right there, and it's currently outputting a power of 9. If I was to go in survival mode and get this Creaking closer, so let's just let it go closer, there we go, you can now see that it's outputting a signal of 14, because it's a lot closer. And if the Creaking was further away, the signal will be lower. Now obviously the signal could be anything from 0 up to 15, and I'm guessing 15 will probably be when it's on adjacent blocks. Now another thing, Creakings will no longer freeze when a creative player looks at them. You can see I'm looking at this guy and he's now slowly moving. I think this is a good change because creative players obviously want to mess with them, build and experiment, so having them stop in place for creative players was kinda weird. Now another change to the Creaking is Creakings spawned by a Creaking heart can no longer be name tagged. I am spam clicking on this Creaking and nothing is happening, but creative ones can be name tagged. And by creative ones, I mean ones that are spawned by the spawn egg. If the Creaking is placed by the heart block, then you cannot name tag them. And I think this is just a bug fix because you could name tag them before and they would still despawn. So I'm now just pushing this guy with also the change to them in creative mode. It does mean that creative mode players can now push the Creaking. So let's quickly just block this guy in because I want to try something. So if we just build some paths so it can't escape, I'm now going to push it with some water. So, for example, the Creaking, if we quickly just push it right up to the Creaking heart, that is currently giving a power of 15 because it's on the adjacent block. If we was to now push the Creaking with some water, let's just place water there, and let's push the Creaking further down. Let's see how many blocks away it has to be before the power goes to 0. So here we go. This is the length at which the Creaking will give a signal. On this block is the final block. If I was to push the Creaking over to this block, then the signal will go down to 0. So it seems like it's 30 blocks. So for every 1 power level, it seems like that is equivalent to 2 blocks, as there are 15 power levels, and there's 30 blocks in between the Creaking heart and the Creaking. Now let's jump to the 1.21.2 pre-release changes. The first one is there is a new updated bubble icon. You can see that when you are drowning, the bubbles will now show on your screen still, but they'll show as empty bubbles. And you can see that by the visual right here. Before, the bubbles would just vanish and not be shown, but you can see they now stay on your screen. The only time they will disappear is when you are outside of water and they are fully replenished. I like this change because it just makes the bubble icons a little bit better to understand rather than them completely vanishing. And you can also see when you are drowning, so when all your bubbles are gone, the bubbles will start shaking. So let's quickly just show that, and you can see they are now shaking with us now taking damage. There does also seem to be a custom sound effect for these being removed, and that is breath meter dropping. So there is no custom sound for when all your bubbles are gone, it then just starts playing the drowning sound. Now there's a new game rule within this update as well, and this is the disable player movement check, and also the disable elytra movement check. And if you don't know what these are the annoying spam messages inside of the console on servers that basically spam when a player is moving too quickly. If you have ever run a server, you may have seen that the logs just spam if a player moves too quickly, teleports or anything like that. Well, with these game rules, you can now disable that feature, so there won't be any spam within the logs. Now by default, both of these are set to false, so by default they will be checking for player movement. Now as an adjustment to the equipables item component, and this is there is a new optional field for camera overlay. and this is a namespace ID of the overlay texture. If no texture or no overlay is specified, then it won't use anything. Now, if you don't know what this is for example pumpkins. So the ID will address a texture under the textures folder, and it will automatically assume that it's a PNG. And then they do also give an example for the pumpkin blur, because this is what this is used in. So for instance, the miscellaneous pumpkin blur addresses the textures.mis pumpkin blur. So if you was to add this, you would probably just need to add this part, but obviously with your own texture. But this does now mean that you can add pumpkin overlays to other equipable items. So for example, if you want the dragon head to have a pumpkin overlay, that is now something you can do. Or you can even have your own custom overlay for the dragon head, if that is something you also want to do. Now, there are also some resource pack changes, which I'm quickly just jumping to the patch notes to show these. They've added the new texture for the air bubble, and they've also made some changes to the particles, and it seems like they've just made it so the colouring of these is a bit better organised. But once again, I don't fully understand this. If you guys do, then this is now something you can do with the following particles. Now let's quickly just cover some of the bug fixes. These are bug fixes for Minecraft 1.20.1.2. So the first one, inside of the most recent updates, they've made it so wolf armor can have a enchantment glint. I think alongside this, it was then bugged, so horse armor stopped showing enchantment glints. Well, it should now be back. So if we quickly just jump on this horse, I've enchanted the horse armor with Curse of Vanishing. You can now see that the horse armor does show its enchantment glint again, and it does show it in the hand and also on the horse. So there was a bug where if you was to shoot an arrow through lava and it was to be set on fire, or you was to have a flaming arrow, let's quickly just shoot that a little bit more down so we don't have to travel. So the bug here was if you had a arrow that was on fire and you was to place water or powdered snow, the arrow wouldn't be pulled out, and it seems like that is still the case, as that arrow still had the fire around it. Okay, if it travels through water, it seems to be pulled out, but it doesn't seem to be pulled out if you place water in its position. Maybe it's because it needs to go one lower. Okay, so it seems like it does work. It seems like you need to place it on the block it's in rather than the block above. Now, there's a lot of other bugs that are just small minor tweaks. One of them related to the winter drop is the creaking could spawn from creaking hearts even if do mob spawning game rule was set to false. And there was also a few bugs with bundles which have also been fixed, because once again they should be fully released when this update cycle is done. And another thing that they mentioned at the top of the patch notes is don't expect any big major changes for either the winter drops or anything else, because pre-releases are normally just fix bugs ready for the final launch. We'll probably see major changes to the creaking as soon as the winter drop update cycle starts, probably around November. But anyway, that is it for this video. If you did enjoy, do leave a like and subscribe, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Snapshots will be a little bit more regular now because they're pre-releases, so I'll try and cover them the best I possibly can. But anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.